Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Major Decisions. I'm Ashlyn Wyman, your host, and today I have a brand new guest with us. So, Ali, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us what major you're in? So, what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, so my name is Ali Jostes, and I'm currently a junior here at SEMO. So I am in the process of getting my elementary education degree, so I'll be certified to teach first grade through sixth grade.
I love that because education is a huge major here at SEMO. It's, one of the big draws because we have a great education program. So I'm super excited to dig in. Do you want to go ahead and tell us maybe a little bit about your personality and, what are your passions in life?
So I really fell in love with teaching whenever I was in high school, and I just really found a passion for it because I love being goofy, and I love being goofy with the kids, and they're just so fun, and they have these big imaginations. So just getting to be creative with them and getting to see how their mind works and hearing all these ideas that they have and just seeing their innocence to the world around them and how joyful they are and how sweet and kind they are. Because a lot of times when you work with adults, you can kind of just see like, man, like these people have just had hard lives and they've been through so much, and there's so much that they go through that almost just doesn't make them as kind. But with little kids, there's that innocence and that sweetness to where they haven't really had to experience life yet, and it just makes it so much fun to be able to hang out with them all day.
Yeah. So you said you fell in love with it in high school. Was it like through a teaching program or did you just decide that's what you wanted to do?
Yeah, so I worked at the YMCA summer camp in my hometown. And so I spent 2 or 3 months working with kids, and I was working specifically with 5 and 6 years old every single day, 8 hours a
Fun
day.
age.
And it was just really fun. Like, I mean, it started out, we were just hanging out with them all day, playing games, taking them on field trips. And I really just fell in love with being around kids, not really like teaching yet, but towards the end of the summer, whenever the kids kind of started realizing, like, oh, the summer's almost over, we're going to go back to school, some of them started asking school questions. And I can remember one of my favorite little kids, he asked me, how do you do long division?
Oh.
And I was like, oh. And so it's kind of a learning process for me, just trying to remember how to do long division. But
Yeah.
I can still remember the look on his face whenever he was like, oh, so I do it like this, and just seeing him finally understand it and like that click in his brain where he's like, I get this, and just keep asking for more and more practice problems. And just the look on his face whenever he realized he had finally figured it out was just one of the best feelings I've ever felt. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I could do this. I could do this for a living. Like I loved it. And so then my going into my senior year of high school, I decided to be a teacher's assistant in a first grade classroom and just really got to see it, because obviously like growing up in the school system, you think you know what teaching's like, but then when you're on the other side of it, it's so much different. So just getting to be in a classroom, I was like, yeah, this is it. Like, I love this so much.
That's super fun. What was the process? You said you're in the teaching program. What is that process like?
So your last 2 years of college, your junior and senior year, for elementary education, you go through blocks. So they section it off into categories so that you're just going through it in the stages of how it would probably work. So last semester I was in the literacy block. So I learned how to write lesson plans specifically for literacy instruction. So like reading books and understanding different stuff like prefixes, suffixes, like just different things that involve literacy, reading, writing. And then this semester coming up is the content block. So it's math, social studies, science, health, just learning about the different subjects that also go into teaching. And then you go to your next semester, which is advanced block, where you kind of just put it all together. And then you go into your student teaching, which is full-time, 5 days a week. You are the teacher in the classroom. So SEMO does a really nice job of preparing you with having field experiences starting when you're a freshman and just going into your junior and senior year, where you're going to field 2 or 3 days a week, and even just emphasizing the importance of being a sub. So just getting to see the classroom well before student teaching, in case someone did want to change their mind. But for me, it just really reaffirms me every semester of how much I love being a teacher.
What is the culture here at Southeast, whether it's, your professors or the people that you're with? What is the feeling around the education program?
So that's probably one of my favorite things about SEMO, and why I chose to come here is just how important people realize education is and how much they love it. A lot of my professors were teachers that ended up retiring and moving on to be professors, and some of them still work in local schools. So just seeing all these people that were passionate about their whole life and then are still passionate about it to the point where they're teaching other teachers how to be teachers and just learning from their life experiences and how different things were when they were teachers, because a lot of them taught in the 70s, 80s, 90s. So to have them come and just be willing to teach us and help us learn how to be teachers and just getting to almost live life on life with them, because each semester you have the same one or two or three teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So just getting to get really close with them and really personal. And I know my teacher last semester just absolutely adored us and kept all of our contact information so that when we finally do become teachers, like she wanted to know and she wanted to see where we were going because she just cared about us so much. So just the personalness of being in the education program and having the same people in all of your classes as you move through the blocks, it's just really special.
Do you know about the differences between, obviously you can become an elementary education teacher, or there's, uh, high school? What is the difference in like what you call yourselves? Is there a different process that you go to, or is it relatively all the same?
I think it's relatively similar, but I know it is different. For high school education, I don't think they're in the classroom as much. I think because it's more of a content. So, like for high school, you would be a secondary education history. So, a lot of what you're doing is history classes on top of education classes. So, there's a lot more of like that depth in a specific subject that has to be learned. So, for them, I don't think they go to the field as much. And then special education is basically the same process as elementary. We take a lot of the same classes. Obviously, they have other stuff they have to take because their specialty is really important and needs a lot of specific attention, which is why it's called special education. But for the most part, education does move through the blocks and go through the process of becoming a teacher in that way.
Very cool. So we've seen kind of with COVID, people really rallying around teachers because it's been a really hard time. And I have a cousin who's a teacher in Kansas City. And so she's been all online and it has really been hard for her. What would you kind of say to those people who are, thinking about teaching, but this has been really hard kind of to grasp what it's going to be like, or why do we need teachers still? Why are they so important?
Yeah, so I would say definitely stick with it. Obviously, this has just been a really scary time for everyone. A global pandemic isn't something that anyone would have wanted, but it happened. And I think that the way that people have adjusted and handled it has gone really well. And just knowing that it's not going to be here forever. We're not going to wear masks forever. We're not going to do online school forever. There's already a lot of schools that have opened up and still have school in person and are still there with their children. And just through all of this, I think it just shows the importance of school and of teachers and the structure that children need and the education level. And even for me, going back home to Illinois, where my school that I sub at home started online, and those kids coming back, like I have had kindergarteners sitting there ready to listen because they were just so excited to be there and so happy to be in the classroom. And just the social aspect of finally getting to see their friends and be around them and eating lunch and being in school and doing all this stuff, like kids love it and they really miss it. And I think it just shows how much impact a teacher has on their life and how much through all of this, like the teachers that worked really hard to make their kids still feel loved and made the time to meet with them and have Zoom classes and stuff, like those kids are definitely going to remember that. So I think for going forward, obviously, I think we're probably over the hump of it to where we're going to start transitioning back more into in-person school, but knowing that with technology and stuff, like classes were still able to meet, teachers were still able to see their students, learning still happened, and teachers did what they were supposed to do and help their kids learn, which is all that we can really ask for of them. And I think that from what I've seen, they did really awesome with that.
Yeah. I know teachers are rock stars. They are, the backbone of our society. They teach the future of our society. Why do teachers have such an opportunity to make an impact, and how can they make an impact? So whenever you're thinking about education and you're wanting to go and something that you love children, but you really are a staple in their life. What does that mean to you, and how do you think teachers can do that?
I think something that just for me that makes it so important and makes the teaching job so important is that you are with these kids 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Like school and school teachers, like every single year for 18 years, you're the person that they're going to see the most. And especially as they go into high school and these older ages, they're going to have soccer practices and stuff. And it's like these parents are trusting us with their children, which is a scary thing, especially for young ages, because that's the first time that the parents are really getting away from them. So it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. And it's like no one wants no one wants their kid to be a low performing student. No one wants their kid to do these things. So just knowing they're trusting us to teach their children, and not even just teach them stuff out of a book. It's teaching them manners and how to be good socially, and like especially with young kids, sharing and all these things where it's not even just like a book thing. It's like how to be a good human being, and
Mm-hmm.
just how to get along with others, and what it means to have good etiquette in public and working with others, and how to be kind to different kinds of people. And I think that school is just so important because there's so many milestones that are met each year, and you see these stories about kids that don't go to school, or that they're abused, and they just don't have this good life. And it's like the importance of school is that when it starts young and you have a good education young, and it develops that love of learning throughout middle school and high school and even college, like that's when you're going to get someone who's really passionate about what they do, and really passionate about their career,
Mm-hmm.
and just loves life and wants to make a difference in the world. And that's what starts with teachers, is teachers helping those students find what they're passionate about and find that love of learning that develops throughout their whole life.
Yeah, that's super, super special because you have to have these teachers and the impact that they make in order to go to college or go to tech school or go to, whatever form that takes you. But if you can't develop that level of learning, like you said, it's really hard to want to go on to do anything else, because at this point most things you have to have some sort of an education to go forward, and so you need that love of learning, you need those impacts that teachers make. So your elementary education, what kind of personality do you think that a person needs to have or got to be willing to work with whenever you're working with kids this age?
So I obviously think that the most important one is probably just patience, just being
Mm-hmm.
patient with them. You're in a class with probably 20 to 25 kids, which is a lot for one teacher. So just being patient with them when they're kind of all over the place, and knowing that they're going to have bad days, but also just a teacher that's super loving and gracious, because obviously kids come from all different kinds of backgrounds. Like there's 24 kids in your class, that's 24 different home lives, that's 24
Mm-hmm.
different who they're going to after school. And kids, maybe if they have divorced parents, balancing like mom's house versus dad's house, like just different stuff like that makes it so hard in a classroom to really understand why people are, if they're acting out in a certain way and stuff like that. So just having patience with them, and also just loving on them. Something that I realized very quickly just working through the YMCA and working with children is that you might be the only person in that child's life that cares about them,
Mm.
and that's showing them attention, and that is like worried about their future and wanting them to do well. As a teacher, like you literally could be the only person in their life that means something to them and that is kind to them. So it's just really important to remember that these kids all have their lives that they're bringing with them into your classroom. So just knowing that, and knowing that they're all going to be different, they're going to progress at different levels. So just having that patience to be able to work with them and just meet them where they're at.
What are some highs and some lows that you have experienced throughout this program?
So, some of the highs that I've experienced is making connections with classroom students. This past semester, I was in a third grade classroom in Jackson, and I just fell in love with it, fell in love with the kids. It was really hard to say goodbye at the end of the semester. And it just really shows you how fast you can connect with them. Like, we only go 2 days a week for a few months, but in that time, like, I became really connected to those kids, and just really loved teaching them and being in the classroom with them and listening to them. At the end of the semester, give us these notes saying how thankful they were, and how much we helped them, and how much we were able to help them learn and grow as students. And just how sweet it was to know that these kids hopefully will remember us for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and remember that these teachers that they had. That was probably one of my highs. And then I guess probably one of the lows was getting obviously sent home for COVID last spring was super hard in the middle of the pre-program classes that were super important, to where we were supposed to be getting classroom experience and getting to be around kids. Just being separated from that made it a little hard, because you get to start those doubts whenever you're away from the classroom, like, is this really what I want to do? Like, just knowing that you're not well paid, and that there's just a lot that goes into it, and just kind of getting those doubts, but really coming back to the classroom and meeting those kids really just showed me how worth it all is, and how much I do love it.
What kind of resources does SEMO have that, is special for this program and, really helps you excel in that area?
Yeah, so one of the biggest reasons I chose SEMO was because of their Edvolution Center, which is a technology education center, which is full of resources for student teachers to use that integrate technology into the classroom. So virtual reality rooms, 3D cubes, where if you scan them with like an iPad or a smartphone or something, they'll pop up 3D, and just the virtual reality goggles and all sorts of different technology. Like there's hundreds of resources in this room that allow us to integrate technology into our classrooms, and just that we have it to access anytime we need to go in there, and like green screens and games and all kinds of stuff that make education fun, which is something that in the society that we're living in is so important, because technology really does advance education and how well students are learning. And we saw that really well with COVID, when teachers were having to adjust to all online learning with Bitmoji classrooms and everything going on. So SEMO having this resource for us, and having this to where there's even like specialty people in there who this is what they do for a living, knowing that we can go in there if we have questions, or if we're like, hey, I'm teaching a math lesson and I want to incorporate this presentation review game into it. How can I use these resources that I've been given to make it more fun for the kids? And just knowing that SEMO really focuses on helping teachers be prepared for the world that they're going into, and even more so, bringing in more aspects that maybe a school district hadn't thought of before. So it's just really cool seeing that kind of side of technological advancements, and even giving us the freedom to, hey, what can you do with this? Hey, how can you integrate this into your classroom? It's not super structured. It really is for experimenting and being able to implement it in the way that we know, because obviously we're probably the youngest people there, that we think the younger generations would love and things that they're interested in.
That's incredible. I actually had no idea. So I feel like that's, and something that we know is, like, as you said, education is changing. It's always evolving. And so they're really putting things that are going to be evolved, that is going to impact your classroom in now. So you have those resources and you can make adjustments. So I think that that's really neat. What kind of, is there student organizations, or what are you doing in particular to help you set yourself up for a career in the education program?
So I'm a part of SMSTA, which is Southeast Missouri State Student Teachers or Teachers Association, and then ASCD, Future Teachers of Tomorrow. And these two organizations, they have a lot of like seminars almost, where you can go and you can listen to speakers from across the country, because it's like a Zoom calls. Speakers from across the country talk about different stuff. So I've been to conferences about like culturally responsive teaching, and how to be responsive even during COVID, and remembering that there are kids that may not have internet, that don't have computers, that don't have different things, and how we can respond well in situations like these. And this being able to hear from teachers and get experience from them. And I know last semester, one time we had a local principal from an elementary school around here come and talk to us about what she looks for. And I know they do mock interviews where you can go in and you can meet with people that are formal principals and these executives of schools and have them interview you. So you get that practice beforehand, so you know what they're looking for, and resume building and all kinds of stuff. So I really love being a part of those organizations. And I know they also do a lot of I don't want to say charity work, but they do a lot of like donation drives and different stuff like that, where they're raising stuff for local schools, water bottles and canned food drives and all kinds of stuff. So it's really cool to see how much these organizations work with the local school districts.
So you also said that you've subbed before. What is the difference? Has it given you a little bit more of a unique perspective being in the classroom yourself than your blocks? Would you recommend people who are, going through this education to become a sub? What is that like for you?
I would 100% recommend subbing. It's such a cool way to just get experience in the classroom and even experience different levels. So, like when you become a sub, you're certified pre K through 12th grade. So, if you're someone like me who's getting certified first grade through sixth grade, I still am not sure what grade I want to teach. Like, I can go in and I can teach different classes, and I'll get hired to teach anywhere from, I've been in 12th grade classrooms, I've been in pre K classrooms, I've been everything in between. And so, it's a really cool way to just get to be in the classroom first of all, and be the teacher yourself, because obviously with student teaching and stuff, there's a main teacher in there and you're just kind of helping her out, and occasionally taking charge. But with substitute teaching, like, you are the teacher, you're in charge, it's your day to go through the lesson plans and do all the teaching and stuff. and even just getting to experience what it's like even like in a special education classroom versus general education, and just kind of being more aware of what goes on in the different aspects of the school that you wouldn't get otherwise. And I know I've even been like the librarian before and like the gym teacher, so there's just so many aspects of the school that you don't really get to see whenever you become a teacher because you're in your one classroom and you work with your team. But getting to see like scheduling for like special education and having to pull students out of classes, and being the librarian and what they do and helping kids find books and just all this different kind of stuff that subbing gives you an insight to that you don't normally get to see. And even the connections that you make with the school districts. Like I sub for Jackson, and I absolutely love the Jackson School District and the people that I meet through that and the principals and the stuff that I've gotten to talk to. So it is really good job experience. And even looking forward, like if you're subbing in a district that you would want to become a full-time teacher, and that would probably give you a foot in the door. So I definitely think subbing is so important, and it's just a really fun way to see different classrooms.
What would be your advice, or, what would you want to say to those people who are thinking about education, or maybe are really passionate about it, but people are saying that they shouldn't do it? What do you want to say to those people?
I went through the same thing with my parents because they weren't super excited at first because obviously the money's not the best and they wanted me to be able to be independent and support myself. But I guess my advice would be that the times are changing. People are realizing the importance of education, and people are understanding how important it is and how important our job is. And if you're questioning it, if it's something you love, go for it. Like life is short. Like you're not here to please other people or make other people happy. And in the end, like you don't want to be someone who ends up at a desk job that hates it and just looks forward to the weekends. Like you want a job that you're going to look forward to every single day when you wake up. And if that's education for you, do it. Don't listen to what other people say. Just know that you're going to love it and that you're going to have something for the rest of your life that you're passionate about and memories that you'll never forget. And these kids will remember you, and these kids will come back in years to come to talk to you and see you. And that's one of my favorite things is seeing kids in my hometown that I had 3, 4, 5 years ago at the YMCA coming up to me and still remembering my name and who I am and giving me hugs and being so excited to see me. And in the future, just knowing like I still remember my elementary teachers and I still talk to them. So knowing that that will be me one day and my kids will be coming back to see me, like just knowing how much of an impact you can have on people and how much you can change these kids' lives, and be the person that does care about them throughout the day. So I would say if this is what you're passionate about, do it and don't worry about what other people have to say.
Well, thank you, Ali, for joining me today. It was so much fun and really educational because I feel like I learned a lot too. So, Ali, is there a way, if people have questions or want to use you as a resource, is there some way that they are able to reach you?
Yeah, so if you have any questions or you're unsure about education or just want to learn more about SEMO's program, you can just email me at ajostes00@gmail.com.
Perfect. So, someone great to talk to. She's always willing, and Ali is so giving. She's always going to be, willing to put 100% of herself into her response or into you. So, if you have any questions about the education program, great person to talk to. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us on Major Decisions. Don't forget to follow the arrow on all of our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of the above. And I'm Ashlyn Wyman at Ashley Y on Instagram, and I will see you soon.
Bye.